We are back with another episode of the MMA Minute. We have UFC 298 this weekend. We've missed a few weeks. Not much, though. It's been a lot of fight night cards, small cards. The one real main card we missed was the middleweight championship. Strickland lost his belt to Duplessis. Pretty close fight, honestly. Could have gone either way. But, you know, I kind of saw it as a draw, but kind of figured if it goes to the Canadian judges out there, with everything Strickland has been saying, it's probably not going to go his way if he goes a decision. But we're not going to cover most of those cards because not much has happened so far this year in the UFC up to now. Fight-wise, this is probably their first big card of the year because, like I said, if you look at that Strickland Duplessis card, it wasn't that good. But yeah, so we're going to go over 298 now, and then we got a few fight nights, but then there's Moreno, and then there's 299, and then 300, obviously. The main event for that's going to be announced pretty soon. But we're going to focus on 298 right here. And this episode's going to be shorter. We're not going to make any more 30-minute long episodes. They're going to be less than 15 minutes from here on out. So just looking at the early prelims, there's a few familiar faces. You got Miranda Maverick, first fight of the night. Val Woodburn, Josh Quinlan. Val Woodburn, you'll remember him from the he fought Bo Nickel in his last fight, his UFC debut on like a 2 or 3 weeks notice. He's got the Mike Tyson build. He's fighting Oban Elliott. I'm not too sure who this guy is. He's 9-2 in the UFC, or 9-2 overall. This might be his first UFC fight. I'm pretty sure it is, actually. So, yeah, they kind of want Val Woodburn. I guess UFC would want him to get the win just so it makes Bo Nickel look a little bit better because that fight, Val was out there for maybe about 2 minutes, minute and a half before he got knocked out. Josh Quinlan, he's familiar. Danny Barlow, 7-0 versus Josh Quinlan. I remember Quinlan, we called one of his last fights. I don't remember who it was, but I remember seeing him on a card. And then... But Danny Barlow, 7-0. To start this off, we'll go this is the early prelims, actually. So we'll just go everybody. Yeah, we'll go Danny Barlow, Val Woodburn, and Miranda Maverick for those first 3 fights. Just early prelim, throwing those predictions out there. Let me check the main card. We got Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Seen him a few times. I think last time he fought Derek Lewis in his last fight, and he lost that. Yeah, his last fight was the flying knee to Derek Lewis, which was absolutely brutal. I think that might have been in the summer. That was funny, though. And then he's fighting Justin Tafa, actually, so that's another big name. Not big name, but someone who we would know. They got Tafa as the underdog right now. Tafa 7-3. 5 first-round finishes. Coming off, he fought Austin Lane. I remember that, actually. He fought the ex-NFL player. I kind of like Tafa for this fight. Marcos de Lima didn't look too... Not that there was much to go off of, but based off that last fight, that's one of those knockouts that changes the way you fight. Justin Tafa, he's one of these hard-hitting New Zealand guys. I would probably take the underdog there. UFC website has him at plus 124, so I would definitely take those odds. Something to consider. And then Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Lemos. Actually not terrible fights for that. Between that and Miranda Maverick, 2 decent fights, Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Lemos. I think Mackenzie Dern's last fight, I remember her getting tagged pretty good on the stand-up. Who was it? Andrade beat her. So she took a step up in competition to the former champ, lost that, and now she's down at number 7, fighting the number 3, Amanda Lemos. I don't know, really. Lemos last fought for the title, actually, so who cares? If you're going to be honest, who really cares? I'll say Amanda Lemos gets it done, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mackenzie Dern submit her or something like that. But just based off that last performance, Mackenzie Dern's stand-up is not where it needs to be. So yeah, I'd just go Lemos. And then we got Roman Kopylov, Russian Chase Hooper fighting Anthony Hernandez to start the main card. This main card is awesome, guys. Super stacked. We got Merab versus Cejudo, Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary, Whitaker versus Costa, and then obviously the main event, Volk versus Topuria. I'm still not convinced that Paulo Costa versus Rob Whitaker is even signed and is even going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this fight get pulled off the card. So Hopefully it does. Hopefully it stays together, but don't be surprised if you see it get pulled off the card like before the press conference. I don't know, though. We'll see. So look at the first fight. We got Roman Kopylov. I call him Russian Chase Hooper. You'll know why if you look at him. Another one of these Dagestanis, it seems, man. Sick of these guys. So Anthony Hernandez, I don't know much about him. He's 11-2. His last fight, he beat Edmund Shabazian. So it's not saying much. Edmund kind of sucks. But yeah, he's 3-0 in his last 3 fights. And they've all been, or actually no, 3-0 in his last 3 fights. Not all finishes, but he has a submission and a KO in his last 3 fights. So let's take Anthony Hernandez, the American, side with him, beating the Dagestani rat. The Russian Chase Hooper, who knows? For all we know, he'll be the next champion, just mountain man that nobody's ever heard of. Then moving up, we got Merab versus Henry. This is a really intriguing fight. Merab, his last performance, what was it? Was it the Yan fight? Yeah, so his last fight, Peter Yan, I think he set the record for takedowns or something like that. Takedown attempts, definitely. I don't think it was takedowns, but it was definitely the takedown attempt record. And now he's going against Henry Cejudo, a guy who's got obviously the best wrestling you can have in the UFC, the highest caliber wrestling. But he's coming off his loss to Sterling, which was a while ago, probably at least over a year now. He's come off his retirement. Merab looked real good. They have Henry Cejudo as the underdog. I'm not sure what to think of this fight because it's 2 guys whose style just don't match up. You know, a lot of times, I've said this before, when it's 2 guys who are super wrestling heavy, you'll see them just stick to the striking matchup. And if it sticks to the striking matchup, I don't know who's going to win. Neither of these guys really have crazy stand-up skills. Henry, like I said, Henry's last fight was the Sterling fight, which was in May. So, yeah, it actually hasn't even been a year. It's almost been a year layoff since his retirement. And then before that, I think he need Cruz, yeah. He need Cruz, and then he beat Moraes. So his stand-up's not terrible, but he definitely looked his age in his last fight against Sterling. And now you got Sterling's fucking boyfriend fighting him. I wouldn't be surprised if Merab just gets another boring decision here. Kind of similar to the Henry versus Sterling fight, but just over the course of 3 rounds. I kind of see that happening, but I would definitely love to see Merab lose. But honestly, I wouldn't like to see either of these guys win because the winner's probably fighting for the title, realistically, unless you give it to Corey Sandhagen. The winner of this fights Sandhagen, but you never know. I definitely see the winner of this fighting for the title next. It should be. It's 2 versus 3. But, yeah, we'll go Merab winning a boring decision. But either one of these guys, if they win, it's probably going to be boring. But, yeah, I guess Merab is more... I would just say he's more in his prime than Henry is at this point in his career. Then moving up, we got the Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary fight. Ian Gary was supposed to fight on the Sean Strickland card. I think it was the Sean Strickland Duplessis card, and he pulled out last minute because of the what was it? I think he got sick. He was supposed to fight Vicente Luque, his teammate. Pulls out. All that WAG stuff happened with him and his wife. And now he's back fighting Jeff Neal, a guy who he was supposed to fight. I'm not sure when it was scheduled, but Jeff Neal, they obviously have a history back and forth. I'm pretty sure the press conference is coming up tomorrow on Thursday. So I can't wait to see what Ian Gary talks about in the press conference, how he goes about what happened, and if he even acknowledges it at all. He might just completely ignore it, all that behind him. But I'd like to see what him and Jeff Neal have to say to each other because if you guys know, he put Jeff Neal's mugshot on his shirt and started selling it and made money off of it. So, and then he got all upset when everybody was talking about him, bringing up his personal stuff. So, pretty interesting stuff. Kind of gives you makes the fight a little bit more interesting. But I'd probably take Ian Gary in this one. Probably a safe bet. His stand-up's not the best. He obviously has a good stand-up. He's finished guys. He's got good kicks. You remember the Daniel Rodriguez fight, but Jeff Neal, he's got good hands, but I don't know. I just don't see him winning this fight. Neal's last fight was against Shavkat. I can honestly see Gary even getting a submission victory here. But yeah, for some reason, I just think Ian Gary's going to win this fight. So moving on, Paulo Costa, Rob Whittaker. Like I said, I'm not even 100% sure that this fight's going to take place on Saturday. But if it does, I got to go Rob Whittaker every time. He's my favorite fighter. But he didn't look great in his last fight. Paulo hasn't looked great in a long time, honestly, and he's had a long layoff. But, the UFC got rid of USADA. It's officially the new year, so USADA is no more. If we get a juiced-up Paulo, the same Paulo that fought Yoel, then I don't know. Whittaker might be in for some trouble because his last fight against Dricus, I say this about Dricus a lot. The way he fights, he looks like he sucks, but he just wins every time. It's really weird. And the Rob fight, he just ran through Rob. Was not expecting that at all. And Rob looked a little bit surprised. He was definitely surprised. I think even Duplessis was probably surprised at how easy he was able to get rid of Rob. But I guess hindsight, the fight doesn't look as bad now that Duplessis went on to be champ. But yeah, if we get a juiced-up Paulo Costa, things might be different. But just going off the fact that Paulo hasn't fought in a long time, he didn't look great against Rockhold by any means. But, he's got that one-shot power. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Yoel, but Yoel just had a little bit more energy. Just their body types. If you guys haven't seen their fight, go back and watch their fight, but that was a war. I'm just going to go with Whittaker on this, but wouldn't be surprised if Costa was able to clip him and TKO him. And then main event, Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. Volk coming back after the KO against Islam a few months ago. Ilia has been on a hot streak lately. He's been talking a lot of crap. And he just seems like right now he's the hungrier guy. I saw a stat. I think it was champions over 35. Their record is like 1-7 or 1-6 when they're fighting guys who are 27 and younger, some weird obscure stat, but it's the stats like that make me think that Ilia is going to get it done. And another thing that makes me think that is, if you can't tell, I'm going with Ilia to get the job done, but I feel like Volk's kind of on his way out. Ilia's on his way up. Volk returning after that finish, that head kick finish, didn't look good for him at all. But I feel like if it's not Ilia who takes the title from Volk, who's it going to be, Ilia's got the best chance, I think, in the division. That's really what I chalk it up to, and that's what I've been saying all week. If it's not Ilia, then who's it going to be? Maybe it's not Ilia, and Volk just goes out the champ and rides out the sunset at 145. But coming back off that after that KO loss, he's never been finished like that. It was a head kick. He got. I hate to be the guy. He got finished by a wrestler. Ilia's not a wrestler. Ilia, if you watch his fight with Josh Emmett and his Bryce Mitchell fight, I think he submitted Bryce Mitchell, actually, just looked a lot stronger than he did. And even the Josh Emmett fight, did real good against Josh Emmett. But, yeah, I feel like the MMA community is a little bit torn on this. Ilia, just the way his confidence, the way he's been carrying himself, just makes it seem like, I don't know. I just got a feeling that he's going to beat Volk for some reason. I wouldn't be surprised if he caught him in the first round, just like Islam. But he doesn't have that experienced record that a lot of guys going into title fights have. He hasn't fought the Holloways. His best win is the Emmett win. Emmett obviously just coming off the KO of Bryce Mitchell looks good right now. But Volk would beat the crap out of Emmett. So if you guys remember, Volk fought Chad Mendez a long time ago. I think it was Mendez's last fight in the UFC, and they were throwing hands. And it's these short guys who are the same size as Volk who just get in there and they aren't afraid to crack with him like Chad Mendez wasn't back in the day. I feel like Ilia's going to be the same. Get in the pocket, and he won't be scared to throw heat with Volk. And I wouldn't be surprised if Volk was to shoot a takedown on him, because I think Volk in the back of his head thinks he's got this young guy coming up undefeated, 27, been on a crazy streak. He's talking shit to Volk, and a lot of guys haven't done that. I don't remember the last guy to talk shit to Volk, but I don't know. Something about his rise makes me think that he's going to get the job done. I feel like it might be Volk's time, but we'll see, you know. Those are my predictions for that fights. We're going to go Ilya, Rob Whitaker, Ian Gary, Marab. And, yeah, that'll be it for the parlay if you're putting a parlay together. So, yeah, that'll be it for this episode, guys. Like I said, we're going to start keeping these ones a lot shorter. No more 30-minute episodes, 15, 20 minutes. But, yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks.
Switching with the paint dripping, turn your neck and your day ain't missing. Me and Slim, we ain't tripping. I'm figure flipping and syrup sipping like do or die. I'm pole pimping. Car stop, rims keep spinning. I'm flipping, drop with invisible tops. Hoes bob with my drop, step out. I'm shaking the block with 4